and welcome back, everybody, to another Hangout, man. This time on Monday night. How you guys doing today, man? Let's freaking go. I haven't seen you guys in a week. We will be doing another live stream this week, Will. So we got two. Still trying to pick the day, but it will probably be a Friday. Might be a Thursday. One of those two. I will obviously let you guys know. So yeah, we're gonna get two Hangouts this week. And this one, we're going to be recapping some of the biggest stuff that happened through the first week and a half, roughly, of free agency. Talking about some trades that happened within the last couple of days, including one today that is, I don't want to say it's a big one. It's not, but it's interesting. And it could have maybe some implications on a team potentially getting back to the playoffs after a little bit of a letdown. David, you'll know who I'm talking about. But David Stegosaurus, speak of the dinosaur first. Heck yeah, man. Let's go, baby. But yeah, and then after that, I'll recap or what I think the Packers are going to be needing heading into the draft. Still going to be a very similar list of what they needed before free agency, but certain positions maybe moved down after picking up some guys during free agency. So yeah. I'm going to try to touch on at least 1 to 2 players per team, but it's mostly going to be more of some of the bigger trades, I think some underrated pickups, and then just some what I think overall. That will probably be the biggest thing of what, just like, is it a good? Did they overspend? Did they do too much? Obviously, it's free agency. You're always going to overspend, but was it more of like, oh, they were trying to just show that they were doing something instead of actually getting guys that I think could actually make a difference? So that's going to be kind of what we're going to be talking about. But just like anything else, a hangout, the most important thing that we're going to be doing is just talking and catching up with each other and just, yeah, what are we looking forward to? What have we been up to? That's what I'm looking forward to. So yeah, you're loco. I am so happy to be a Bills fan right now, man. Yeah, dude, your team was active, a little bit more active in free agency than I thought they would be, but obviously they restructured some deals, opened up some cap space. And to be honest with you, man, I think you got 1 or 2 guys that are going to play some significant snaps. Whether they will be productive, we'll talk about that. But yeah, man, I mean, you definitely got some offensive help for Josh Allen, and you got a potential high risk but also a high reward pass rusher. In the last like week or so. So yeah, man. But you're local. How you been, my man? Let me know. And also, give me your what do you think your Bills are going to be focusing on during the draft? Let me know. All right. So right now I'm on Spot Track. So I'm going to kind of just move down the list. Like I said, I think I have about 16 to 18 teams that I have here that I do want to just kind of touch on. The rest of the teams, as we kind of go through the list, I may not bring their logo up and go into a deep dive, but I'll give you my thoughts on what maybe like 1 or 2 guys that I'm like, oh, okay, I like that pickup, or maybe not. But yeah, so obviously I think we do have to start with the reigning Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks, as much as it pains me to start with them. Yeah, let's see how active they were. They were surprisingly active. I feel like they brought back some of their bigger. I don't want to say bigger players, but some of their more explosive, big playmakers. Obviously, Rashid Shaheed is probably one of the top players on that list that was brought back to Seattle on a pretty sizable contract, to be honest with you. In my opinion, we need to focus on offense. Sure, we just got DJ Moore, but we are still shaky at wide receiver. Yeah. I like Shakir. I think that's a really solid number 2 right there, or at the very least, a really, really good slot receiver. DJ Moore is one of your outside guys. You need 2. You need your slot receiver, and then everything else. You just need either a guy that has good hands, potential, or a guy that can just find a way to get open in the short routes. So, you need your 2 outside slots and then the guy I just mentioned. But Shakir is your slot receiver. DJ Moore is, in theory, going to be one of your outside guys. Now you need that other guy that's going to be across from him. Could that be Keon Coleman? Probably not, but who knows, man? We've seen players bounce back from worst seasons. So yeah, David, Seattle Sea Chickens, cluck cluck, bucka. What's going on, David? How you doing, my brother? What are you doing? How's your week been, my man? All right, let me just what the heck, jeez. Okay, why can I not find the Seahawks? Come on, there you are. Jeez. But yeah, man. The Seahawks, starting with Rashid Shaheed, signed a big $51 million contract, pretty huge there. So obviously he was great. He was so dang explosive as their returner, and was able to make some really solid plays when they needed him especially in the NFC Championship game and the divisional round, making some plays on offense. So something tells me with this contract, he's not just going to be a returner, kick or punt returner. Something tells me that Shaheed is going to be well integrated into that offense, and they're going to find ways to get this guy open. Could have had a massive play in the Super Bowl as well, down the middle of the field, but Christian Gonzalez with one of the biggest plays of that game for the Patriots, able to bat that ball away. Otherwise, Shaheed at the very least was going to catch that one for about 40 or 50 yards, if not get into the end zone. So something tells me we're going to see a lot more of Shaheed in that kind of role with this $51 million investment. I did a bunch of yard work Saturday in the high 60s last night. Was a low of 11. Ooh, chilly, man. Chilly, chilly, chilly. Did you guys get a bunch of snow, or were you guys able to kind of avoid that? Because we got here in Wisconsin, or at least where I'm at here in Wisconsin, we got about, I think it was close to a foot and a half of snow. I think we got like 12 to 14 inches. So that was not fun. Luckily, they were able to clear it out, but yeah, it snowed for about almost 24 hours up here in Wisconsin. And I think today was the high of like 18 with like a wind chill of like basically almost -5. So yeah, not fun. Not fun to be around. Let me see here. Another player they were able to bring back was Josh Jobe, one of their corners. I think they had three corners or three players in that secondary that were free agents. Jobe was one of them. Was They were able to bring him back. I think that's basically it. Outside, did they bring anybody else back? I guess they brought Shamir John Charles, former Green Bay Packer, late pick there. But he is more of a special teams guy. He really didn't really play a whole lot in that secondary. But yeah, man, Jobe is really the only guy that they were able to bring back this season from that secondary. And we'll obviously talk about some of those other players that they ended up losing to other teams. But Jobe, $24 million, solid contract. Obviously, not going to be their number one guy, but is really, really good at depth, man. Really good depth player in that secondary, and also has been able to play in special teams. So we got a solid dusting of snow, of which all but the stuff in the shadows got melted today. And we almost hit 32. Woo! There you go, man. Yeah, that's oh man. When it's like a light dusting, it's kind of nice because like you're gonna get that snow look, which is always awesome. But then it doesn't really stick around, which is, in my opinion, a good thing. Um, but yeah, man, absolutely wild. Yeah, no, unfortunately, it's gonna probably take a few days for the snow that fell here in Wisconsin to melt away, but it'll go away. We got some decent weather, or in terms of temperature, coming up in Wisconsin. So, heck yeah, Yo Loco, Bradley Chubb, C.J. Gardner Johnson, D Ford. Like what? Yeah, man. Like you got some decent players, man. C.J. He's one of those guys, man. I think it like. I think we've seen this over the last couple of years. His personality can definitely rub. I don't want to say his teammates, but coaches the wrong way, and just his teammate after a while, and that's why he hasn't really been able to stick with a team for super long. But he's a good player, man. Really solid player, especially when his ego but his play are matching. it's really really good. The issue is when his ego tends to be a little bit more inflated than his play is. But otherwise, a really solid player, and there's a reason he keeps on getting signed, and has a significant role almost anywhere he goes. Philadelphia, the Saints, the guy is solid, man. Bradley Chubb was the pass rusher that I was talking about. I'll get into him when we get to the Bills there. And D Ford, another solid signing for the Bills. Um, Continuing with the Seahawks, though, Emmanuel Wilson, the backup in Green Bay, the backup running back there, he has finally left the Packers and is signing a $2 million deal with the Seattle Seahawks. By no means is he going to replace Kenneth Walker, even though I think Wilson is a really solid running back. Over his last 2 seasons, he's averaged about 4.5 yards per carry for the Packers. Really solid, always came in clutch when Josh Jacobs or Aaron Jones were missing time. Um, but I feel like with Brooks, with Marshawn Lattimore hopefully getting healthy, I think the Packers they're kind of rolling the dice that they're going to be able to replace Wilson. But Seattle, they needed some depth, and I think Wilson, even if he's a backup or a third stringer, I think he's proven that he's going to be a decent back in the NFL at that role. Kind of couple carries, anywhere between 5 to maybe even 12 carries in a game, and he'll be relatively productive. Plus, he can catch out of the backfield, which is nice. Your local recently finished building a house with my coworkers. Holy cow! Got paid. Holy cow! So I'd say I've been pretty good, man. Dude, congratulations, brother. Let's freaking go, man. You make that money, man. Let's go. Heck yeah, man. So when it comes to that, man, like, are you kind of like an independent contractor, or do you like? I'm not trying to get too much into your own personal business, but like, so do you have like another job lined up as well? Are you building more houses? Well, yeah. But hey, man, either way, congratulations, man. That's a heck of a payday, brother. Let's go. Let's go, man. Also, congrats to your coworkers as well, man. Let's go. Make that money, man. Make the money. But for the most part, it looks like Seattle was kind of in the mode of kind of keeping their guys. Shaheed, Job, Brandon Phillips, defensive lineman. They brought back a couple players on offense. Brady Russell, a backup tight end, and Josh Johnson. They were able to bring him back as well. So really, really solid. Obviously, I brought up Shamir John Charles, special teams guy. So yeah, so really, really solid free agency for Seattle. Didn't spend a ton of money, but they were definitely building back that Super Bowl team, bringing some key players. Lost some players that we'll talk about, but for the most part, I think they are a team that is going to be building through the draft again to try to keep it as cheap as they can, but at the same time, trying to make sure that they don't have so much of their cap taken up with some potentially aging players. So, yeah. But you're local. I forgot. I was gonna ask you as well, man. What kind of like, how big of a house, man? Couple bedrooms, couple bathrooms, big garage. What's going on? Also, I wish I could build a house, man. That is the one thing that not just the one thing, but one thing that I wish I could do if I were ever to buy a house. I would love to build it from scratch. I don't think that it would be possible, but I'll be back later. Okay, David. There you go, my man. I'll see you in a bit. Oh yeah, I'll share. I have 2 more jobs lined up. I'm a contractor, so I get paid. What? There we go. Heck yeah, brother. Let's go. Everyone's there, got a fair share of the money. I got paid a lot because it was a big house. Woo! It's 3 star. Oh, baby. Let's go. Heck yeah, brother. Let's go, man. I'm happy for you, brother. Let's keep it going, man. I hope it keeps on being lucrative, my man. Building homes for people is awesome, man. Dude, especially working with your hands, man, is always a good thing. All right. So let's talk about next the New England Patriots, the team that ended up losing in that Super Bowl to the Seahawks. They were fairly active, not as active as they've been over the last couple of years. I think they are understanding that they need to get younger, but also potentially cheaper because in about a year or two, they're gonna have to start probably paying Drake May and a lot of those young players on offense and their defense as well. Yeah, Drake May has already completed his second year. Typically, it's a 4-year deal, but if you're a fifth rounder, if you're a first rounder, you get that 5-year deal. But for the most part, it seems like teams are just more willing to give them extensions instead of using that fifth year because you're already for that fifth year you basically have to pay the guy as if he was a top 5 top 10 player anyway. You might as well get a full term contract where you can potentially stretch out some of that guaranteed money through the life of the contract, but also maybe add some dummy years. Obviously, with that fifth year option, it's all guaranteed and it's a big spike in that cap hit. So most teams are trying to avoid that anyway. So yeah, basically by this time next year, there's a good chance that Drake May and the Patriots are going to be having discussions about an extension. Can we skip this team, please? Ugh, all the hatred goes to New England. I'm sorry. It's just me, man. Curse you, New England. Don't worry, I'll be quick. And to be fair, they didn't really sign too many guys, so there's only about 3-ish guys that I want to talk about anyway. Obviously, one is Algera Vera Tucker. I probably butchered that name. I'm sorry. The former New York Jet. This is a weird one with Tucker. I think they definitely overpaid him for how he's played in the NFL over the last couple of years with the Jets. To be fair, one, he did play for the Jets. It's hard to play great when you're playing for the Jets. Sorry, Jets fans. But on top of that, the thing with Tucker is that he is versatile, and I think that's what the Patriots were looking for. He can play tackle, he can play guard, he can play not only left tackle but right tackle, left guard, right guard. He can basically play 4 positions on that offensive line. I wouldn't be surprised if he could probably play a little center, but typically it's a whole different monster. But yeah, if you can sign a guy for relatively what's a 3-year, $42 million deal that could potentially start at 4 positions on the offensive line, that is solid. As a Packer fan, you saw that with Elton Jenkins, a guy that could play basically guard at any point in the game and play it well, could kind of start at tackle in a pinch, and then obviously this year played at center. Did not play well at center, but was okay, relatively okay. So yeah. Oh, we are back to talking football. Haha, spend extra time on Patriots Day. So yeah, so Tucker, 3-year deal, $42 million, very versatile offensive lineman, but may not have a high ceiling. We'll see. Darramont Jones, defensive pass rusher, defensive end there, 3 years, $36 million from Baltimore. Those Baltimore pass rushers tend to do pretty well once they leave. Even when they leave Baltimore, they tend to be really good in Baltimore. But even when they bounce around, they tend to do well. They tend to stick around the NFL and be productive. So it wouldn't be surprised if Jones is that guy. And then finally, Romeo Doubs. I think I initially said it was a 4-year, $80 million deal. That's what it can be up to if he hits everything. But it's actually a 4-year, $68 million deal. So an average of $17 million a year, not 20. Either way, the Packers were definitely not going to be paying Romeo $17 million a year. And because I think Christian Watson, one, if he stays healthy, big question mark. I think he has a significantly higher ceiling than Romeo. And I think that if the Packers are going to overpay or pay a guy that much money, it's going to be a guy like Christian. So, but yeah, man, Romeo Doubs, another wide receiver in Green Bay, going somewhere else to get paid. And he's basically the replacement for, my goodness, I don't know why, but I'm completely blanking on his name. Buffalo Bill, former Viking. You know who I'm talking about. Yeah, basically he's the replacement. He's their possession receiver who can basically play anything, can catch anything from 5 yards to about 15 yards. He's not a deep threat. Doesn't have incredible size or speed, but he is a solid player that when he is on and can catch almost anything. So, my God. Sorry, I've been looking at like like this stuff for like the last like 4 hours. I completely am blanking on some people's names here, so I apologize. Plus, it's been a long week. It's been a long weekend. So yeah, so that's kind of all I wanted to talk about with the Patriots. Otherwise, it's very kind of like depth guys, a fullback there, a couple safeties, nothing massive in terms of guys that probably won't be starting anyway. More special teams, more backups. So we'll move on. Diggs, thank you. Yes, Stefan Diggs. My goodness. Wow. See, David, that's why I need you, man. You're always right there. You're always there to catch me when I fall. Yeah. I don't know why. I don't think I've ever blanked on Stefan Diggs' name ever, but today, look at that. I think it's because he played for the Patriots and the Vikings. I'm just like, man, I don't need to remember him. Oh man. All right. All right. So let's actually talk about a team that hasn't made a ton of moves, but has made some really solid moves, and I do want to touch on some of them. And that is the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's go. So they've definitely made some significant moves here and there, and we'll see. Actually, a decent amount of them are just kind of bringing back some of their own guys, and obviously that is Travis Kelsey, Tyquan Thornton, who I think is a really solid signing. 2 years, $11 million. He was really solid for them early on when they were dealing with some injuries at receiver and some suspensions coming into the season. He was kind of the guy that Mahomes was seeming to target down the field, and for the most part, Thornton, even in those contested catches, was coming down with them on a pretty regular basis. So to be able to get him for under $6 million a year, I think it's a solid re-signing, and I'm excited to see if he'll have a bigger role this year. Once again, Travis Kelsey, not surprising. If Kelsey was going to play this season, or if he was going to come back, it was always going to be with Kansas City. He's going to retire a Chief. He's not going anywhere. Whenever he's done, when he decides to hang it up, it'll always be as a Chief. He's not going to play for anybody else. They brought back, I think their guard, right, Mike Caliendo. They brought him back. But obviously, some of the biggest signings that they had was Kenneth Walker Jr., obviously getting him from Seattle. Super Bowl 60 MVP on a pretty decent deal there, averaging about $14 million a year to be basically their number one running back here. Out is Isaiah Pacheco. He is now in Detroit, and in is Kenneth Walker. So with Walker, I think it's a good signing. I think they needed a running back. They needed somebody that can run with power, that can take over a game here and there. Kenneth Walker, the biggest thing with him is his inconsistency and also dealing with some injuries. The injuries have not usually been an issue the last 2 years, but consistency is still a major factor with Kenneth Walker, which I think was a reason why Seattle was okay letting him go. I think they're looking that they can find somebody that can be just as productive, but being not only more available, but also a little bit more consistent. Kenneth Walker, when he is playing great, you saw what he did during that Super Bowl run, can be dominant. But then if you look at his history, even in the regular season, sometimes the guy just can't find any room to run. And that Seattle offensive line was not a bad running team. Or a bad run offensive line. So I think a lot of it has to do with Walker maybe missing the gap or trying to do a little too much at times. So we'll see how he does in Kansas City. They've done a really good job allowing their running backs to kind of maximize their potential. Isaiah Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, even what was it, Steele, who was a fullback, but even then he had a couple good runs, a couple good games. So yeah, Andy Reid will definitely find ways to get Walker open. And then on top of that, there's not a signing, but the Kansas City Chiefs did just trade today for Justin Fields. Man, yes, they gave up I think it was a sixth or seventh round draft pick to the New York Jets to get Justin Fields. Obviously, they lost Mahomes to that knee injury, as well as they lost Minshew to free agency. He is now in Arizona, so they needed somebody that has starting experience and that can potentially at least keep the offense afloat. Um, yeah, Justin Fields has not been good with the Jets. He was borderline historically bad, but he actually had four good games with the Steelers before he was benched for Russell Wilson. Um, and on top of that, once again, similar to the Kenneth Walker signing, I think Andy Reid is going to be able to put Justin Fields in the right position to be able to maximize what he can do. He's probably going to use his legs for sure. He's going to be able to find ways to get the ball out of his hands quickly to get it out to those receivers and tight ends. So that way, Justin does not have to run around to try to find somebody down the field. So, yeah. So, a potentially decent signing that could potentially keep the Chiefs on track early in the season if Mahomes is not ready for week one. So, let me see here. Emery DeMarcado, the backup running back over there in Arizona, he is now with the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Chiefs are like, fine, you're gonna steal Minshew from us. We'll take your running back, DeMarcado. So yeah, let me see here. But David, if you're still watching, my man, what do you think of the Justin Fields trade? Do you like it, or is it more of just like, eh? All right. Next team here. We're definitely gonna be bouncing around here. There isn't gonna be any. We're not gonna be sticking to kind of divisions. We're just gonna be bouncing around. Um, so for the Lions here, the biggest thing that I took from their signings were offensive line and secondary help. They got Cade Mays, the center from Carolina, gave him a 3-year, $25 million deal. Larry Bloom, the right tackle from Miami, only a 1-year, $5 million deal. Definitely going to be more of a backup or a potential swing tackle there. And then Isaiah Pacheco obviously signed with them. That could be a decent signing, especially if Pacheco can stay healthy and kind of get back to being as productive as he was earlier in his career with Kansas City. David, it's a man. I mean, glad we got someone who, yeah, has potential to back up without being too expensive. 100%. Yeah, and the Jets are going to be taking a good chunk of his remaining contract. So I think that was why Kansas City was willing to give up. I think it was a sixth round draft pick. I think that's what it was in 2027. So I think if without that, I think either Kansas City is unwilling to make the trade, or they're like, we'll give you a seventh for in like 2035 for him. Let me see here. Yeah, and it seems like So yeah, I talked about with Detroit. A lot of it is going to be secondary help. So Rocky Sin is coming back. They signed safety Christian Izen from Tampa Bay, only a 1 year, $2 million deal. Um, and then on top of that, they were able to get Roger McCreary from the Rams, and I think that is it at the secondary position. So three signings, two corners, one safety. Obviously, the Lions were dealing with a lot of injuries in that secondary, and of course, a couple of those guys that started for them are now elsewhere. So they were just trying to make sure that they found ways to get um, bodies there, but also potentially build that base there. And they got, I mean, Rakusin and Christian Izin, they both have played a lot of football in the NFL. Rakusin, obviously, I think I'm pretty sure he was coming from Oakland before he went to Detroit. And then Christian, obviously, from Tampa Bay. And when you're part of that Tampa Bay defense, especially that secondary, you have to be a pretty damn good player, man, because they were phenomenal for the last couple of years. So they obviously brought back Rojo Malcolm Rodriguez, the linebacker. They needed him back because they ended up losing. Um, my goodness, I even made a post about him. They ended up losing Anzalone to Tampa Bay. So, and they're actually they're bringing back Teddy Bridgewater, man, who was with Tampa last year. So that's a nice little, almost a little bit of a homecoming for Teddy. Um, he was obviously with Detroit a couple seasons ago. So yeah, so some decent signings for Detroit. Nothing major. Their biggest signing was center Cade Mays, but otherwise everything else more for depth than anything else. And David, with the trade, how if Mahomes doesn't start, would you want them to run with with this trade and see like, you know what, we'll start him for a couple, or do you want them to draft somebody to kind of compete for that backup position? Yeah, because Justin, I mean, he's played decent at times. It just hasn't been anywhere near as consistent as you would want for a guy that was drafted where he was. So yeah, would you feel comfortable if Justin Fields had to start the first 2 to 4 games of the season, or do you want them to draft somebody? All right. Let's get to a team that were the biggest spenders in free agency this offseason. They may not have had the most signings, but by all means, they spent the most money, and that is the Oakland Raiders. Yes. So obviously, their biggest signing was Tyler Lindenbaum, the center from Baltimore, giving him a 3 year, $81 million deal. 60 million of that is guaranteed. That is the largest contract for an interior offensive lineman in NFL history. So, and also Linderbaum is a heck of a player. So, just play Justin for a few games. It's not like there's Arch Manning available who should ball out from our one. That's fair. Yeah, is Arch is he gonna be? Is he gonna be? I mean, I guess it's going to depend. And the Mannings have always been a team or a family, I should say, that is very much like if the team that they is potentially picking them, if they don't like that, they will find ways to avoid that, whether going back to college or simply saying, you can draft us, but we're not going to play for you, so you might as well just trade us or might as well not pick us. You know, Peyton was kind of that a little bit. And then on top of that, Eli obviously was not going to play for the Chargers, didn't want to, and was able to. They were able to force that trade to New York. So Oakland Raiders. Did I say Oakland Raiders? I'm never gonna get used to saying Las Vegas, man. It's just not gonna happen. Suck it, Raiders. We refuse to acknowledge your gambling move to Nevada. Shout out to Las Vegas and Nevada. All right, the city and the people of Nevada. You guys are awesome, but it's it's just when you see the Raiders, you think either Los Angeles or you think Oakland. You don't think Las Vegas. Yeah, it's just not gonna happen, man. But anyway, yep, they signed Linderbaum. That was not it. They gave Jalen Naylor, a guy who was basically the third string receiver in Minnesota. They gave him a 3-year, $35 million deal. They signed Nakobe Dean from Philadelphia, 3 years, $36 million to be one of their starting linebackers. Speaking of that, they also signed Quay Walker, the former first-round pick from Green Bay. They gave him a 3-year, $40 million deal, paying Quay I think he is now the seventh or sixth highest paid linebacker in the NFL. And as much as I like Quay, and I think he has gotten he's gotten better and better every single season, he is nowhere near a top 10 linebacker, not even a top 15 linebacker, in my opinion. I think he could potentially be in the top 32 for sure. I think he's one of the better players. He's definitely a starter in the NFL, but definitely not a top 10 guy. That's insane. Naylor, Lenore. Oh, baby. Got him. Got him. Speaking of that, they were not done signing or slash re-signing former Green Bay Packer first-round picks. They also re-signed Eric Stokes. Stokes signed with the Raiders last year after leaving Green Bay. I think he signed like a 1-year, $5 million, $7 million contract. This year, apparently they liked him so much they gave him a 3-year, $30 million deal with about 20 of that guaranteed. So keeping some of that secondary there. And then on top of that, where are they? They actually signed Connor Hayward, who we saw quite a bit with the Steelers there towards especially when they got into the inside the 5, inside the 10. It seemed like the Steelers were trying their best to try to get Connor Hayward, Cameron Hayward's little brother, in to the end zone quite a bit there. So, but now he is an Las Vegas Raider. So another big signing there. They also signed defensive end from Indianapolis, Kwity Paye, to a 3-year, $48 million deal. So yeah, there's one, two, three, four, five, six guys that are getting $30 million or more in terms of total money there with the Raiders. So insane, absolutely freaking insane. Yeah, I think in total, I think the Raiders spent over $250 million over the last week and a half. That is a lot of money. And on top of that, they're no longer getting the 2 first-round picks from Baltimore for the Max Crosby trade. So now they got to find a way to find some room for Max Crosby, or potentially wait until they can find somebody else to trade for him. Yeah, absolutely freaking wild, man. Absolutely wild. All right, staying with the high seas motive. First, we went with the Raiders. Maybe some can take that as some pirates there. But now we're gonna move on to something a little bit more silky. And that's the Dolphins there. Terrible transition, but we're gonna push through it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Fish, mammal, whatever. So obviously the Dolphins' biggest signings and biggest moves were one signing Malik Willis, the backup out of Green Bay, to a 3-year, $67 million deal. 45 of that guaranteed, and also cutting Tua Tagovailoa earlier that day before they signed Willis. Raiders couldn't move Crosby. Ha ha. Point and laugh. Ha ha. Let me see here. Who else? Zane Gonzalez. They're bringing him as their kicker. Zane actually had a pretty decent season with the Falcons, so I was actually surprised that he did not stick around with it, stick in Atlanta there. So it is what it is. Otherwise, for the most part, the Dolphins just kind of brought back their own guys: Matthew Butler, A.J. Brown, Riley Patterson, Willie Gray Jr., and then they also brought back Greg Dulcich, the tight end there. All of them relatively small contracts, not anything massive. They also signed Zane Anderson, safety, but was a more of a special teams ace in Green Bay. Obviously, a lot of Green Bay connections in Miami there. Their president or GM was a executive with the Packers. Their head coach was the defensive coordinator for the Packers, and now their starting quarterback was a with the Packers last year, the last 2 years. So yeah, the seems like they only signed 2 former Packers, but seems like they're trying to build some of that around their secondary, around their offense. So yeah, pretty good. I think one of the more underrated signings for the Dolphins is going to be Joshua Uche, the defensive end. Not Doesn't put up massive numbers, man, but always seems to be able to put a little bit of pressure on the quarterback. Just a little bit of pressure. Always seems to be around the ball. Solid tackler, and to be able to get him for under $2 million, I think it's a really solid deal. So that's one of my favorite signings for Miami outside of the Willis one. All right. We'll talk about this team just to get them out of the way. Ugh. And that is going to be the worst team in all of football, the Minnesota Vikings. So yeah, they didn't really sign too many guys. They re-signed 2 of their own players, long snapper, safety. Nothing too crazy there. They did sign James Pierre, a corner who played for the Steelers last year. They signed him to a 2-year, $88.5 million contract. But their biggest signing, even though it is probably the cheapest actually of these of their 3 signings, and that is quarterback Kyler Murray signing a 1-year, $1.3 million contract. The reason Kyler was willing to take that so little money is because he is getting about, I think, close to $25 million from the Arizona Cardinals to not be on the Cardinals roster. So yeah, Minnesota did not need to sign him to a big contract, and Kyler is still going to make quite a bit of money this year because Arizona is paying all of it, basically. So yeah, Minnesota is going to be able to get him on a minimum contract, and he will be competing for a starting job against J.J. McCarthy. So I think that shows you that the Vikings are by no means confident and willing to roll the dice again with J.J. McCarthy to be their franchise quarterback this year. It could still happen. He could develop. He can get better, things like that. But I think the Vikings are like, yeah, we're not doing this again. We already we let go of Daniel Jones. We let go of a bunch of other guys to basically open the door and give JJ the keys to the kingdom. And he trashed the place multiple times last year. But yeah, so yeah, Kyler Murray is likely going to be competing for that starting job, and it would not be surprise me if he is the starting quarterback for the Vikings starting week 1. I was hoping the Packers would actually sign Murray. I was hoping they could get another Malik Willis kind of deal going, where they can bring him in, get him into a system, no pressure to be the guy, and just kind of rebuild his confidence, rebuild his mechanics. But Kyler Murray decides to just continually to make bad decisions for his life. and decides to move to Minnesota and play for the Vikings. Oh. If I was Kyler, I would have just taken the year off and done like a Twitch channel, like a gaming channel. Like even if the Vikings were the only team that was calling, I'd be like, I I I'd rather just play COD, to be honest with you. But no, I think it's a good signing for the Vikings. It's a low risk, high reward kind of signing. So see here. Oh yes, talking about a team that I think made some good moves this offseason. Even though I think they might have overpaid for basically the top two guys here, but it's free agency. You're gonna overpay anyway. So the Saints, some of their biggest value per money or signings is going to be Noah Fant, getting in for a 2-year, $8 million deal. Caden Ellis, the linebacker from Atlanta, 3 years, $33 million, $11 million a year. Seems like a lot, but honestly, not bad for how productive Ellis was for the Falcons there. Sorry, I almost said ETN. Travis Achan. Apparently, we've been saying his name wrong for his entire NFL college career. So yeah, Travis Achan, uh, correcting people a couple days ago on how to say his last name. He signed a 4-year, $52 million deal to leave Jacksonville, which honestly, no offense, Jacksonville. Somebody paid me 50 million. 50. They didn't have to. Somebody would not have to pay me $52 million to want to leave Jacksonville. David, by the way, I like your logic on the Vikings missing the playoffs but not having a great draft. Don't get me wrong. If they win 0-17, absolutely hilarious. I would love it still. I would absolutely love it because the Vikings are going to mess up the draft pick anyway. They had a chance at what, like five other quarterbacks in that draft where they could have traded up and gotten somebody better, and instead they went with the only guy that can't seem to stay on the field, and when he does, can't seem to throw a freaking touchdown to save his life. The Vikings would have messed that first overall pick anyway, but I do like that 7-10. You're like, maybe we can make the playoffs, and then they don't. So you know, you don't want to give the Vikings a chance to accidentally stumble into a franchise player. Fun times. All right. And then finally, the guard slash tackle David Edwards signed with the Saints. He's coming from Buffalo, so a big loss for the Buffalo's offensive line there. But to be honest with you, man, the Buffalo offensive line was not great. Edwards was not terrible last year by any means. I would say he was probably one of the better parts of that offensive line, but he still had his rough spots. And for him to get a 4-year, $61 million deal is quite a bit. So, but yeah. That's all I hope for. Going back to what you were talking about, Dave. That's all I hope for Chicago and the Vikings. I don't want them to be winless, but I just want them to be good enough to not have a top 10 pick, but not good enough to make the playoffs. Keep them in that terrible middle ground purgatory. Really torture them. Am I a terrible human being? Nah. It's the Vikings and the Bears. They deserve it. They know what they did. So next, I will talk about. I'm literally only going to be talking about two players for this next team here, but Jesus, man, the amount of players the Giants have signed is absolutely insane. I see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 players, and only four of them were on the team last year. That is an insane amount of money, insane amount of new players coming into that franchise. The biggest names, obviously, Isaiah Likely, the tight end from Baltimore, not surprising. Obviously, John Harbaugh is the head coach there, bringing in a lot of his former players. Jordan Stout, the punter, signing one of the richest contracts for a punter, 3 years, $12 million. The fullback, Patrick Ricard, 2 years, $7.6 million. And finally, Darius Washington, the safety, signing basically a veteran minimum contract, but a special teamer's ace over there in Baltimore. Their other biggest signings were Jermaine Elnamore. He's a re-signing actually, defensive. Right tackle slash left tackle. Tremaine Edmonds, 3 years, $36 million. He did not play well last year with Chicago, so I'm kind of surprised that the Giants paid him that much money, but doesn't seem like there's a bunch of guaranteed money in that contract. And other than that, man, that is basically it. Another signing is Evan Neal, the guard. He did play for the Giants last year. He was a former first round pick. Has been absolutely freaking disastrous, man. One of the worst, one of their worst draft picks in the last couple of years. But he's dealt with a lot of injuries and just really bad play. They're bringing him basically on a minimum contract to basically give him one more year. John Harbaugh basically said it's a clean slate. Just come in here, compete, try to bring out your potential, man. And I think that's the Giants trying to, one more time, try to see if they can get something, basically trying to get blood out of a stone here, even though I don't think it's going to happen. I did like that they signed Darnell Mooney, really, really good receiver, underrated, and also could be a special teams player there. Nice little returner. So, yeah, other than that, nothing too crazy in terms of their signings. Greg Newsome is also another decent signing, even though I don't like the 1 year, $10 million deal. But he's at times played really well, and I think the Giants are just looking for high risk, high reward kind of players at this point, trying to rebuild that defense that was really freaking bad. I think Newsome, if he would have played with the Giants last year, he would have been arguably their best corner in that secondary. Dude, what is going on with... Sorry, I'm just trying to get the hair out of my face here, man. My gosh. Yeah, I don't know how much of the signings for the Giants move the needle here, but we'll see. We shall see. All right, staying with New Jersey teams here. The Jets were another team that was very, very active in free agency. Didn't spend a ton of money, but they clearly were wanting to fix one side of the ball in free agency, and that is their defensive side. They signed Joseph Osai, 3 years, $34 million from Cincinnati. They're paying Demario Davis. They were able to get him away from the Saints there on a 2 year, $22 million contract. Signed Kingsley Enagbari, a former Green Bay Packer, to a 1 year, $9 million contract with almost all of it guaranteed, obviously, for a 1 year deal. They were able to get Nashawn Wright from Chicago. Wright, weirdly enough, I was expecting him to get a little bit more money, but only signed a 1 year, $3.5 million deal. That could be actually a pretty decent value for them if Nashawn Wright can kind of play, kind of go back to what he was kind of making some plays early in his career with Chicago. Yeah. Otherwise, like right there, all the players that I just mentioned either play linebacker, defensive end, or in the secondary. They also signed safety Dane Belton from the Giants. They signed another safety, Andre Cisco. Yeah, man, they were clearly trying to rebuild that defense that just came away with a one single freaking turnover all season long. Just one turnover. So yeah. We'll see what the Giants do in the draft, man. They're gonna have to I think they're honestly their entire offense is just as bad as their their defense, to be quite honest with you. So I think they knew that they had to either attack offense or defense in free agency, and then in the draft attack the other side of the ball. And something tells me it's going to be a strong offensive side draft for the Jets this year. Wouldn't be surprising if they used their first pick on defense just to kind of really hit it to make sure that they got it. But yeah, I think it's going to be offensive draft because they need depth. They need depth. They need quality. They just need from top to bottom. Their offense just needs to be rebuilt because it seems like a lot of the guys that are great offensive players, Wilson, those guys don't want to be there anymore. And yeah, David, the Jets didn't do the worst in free agency, but I bet one 4 pennies. You bet 4 pennies they still suck. You know what? I'll take that bet, my man. I'll take that bet. And when you win, or if I win, if we ever meet each other in this lifetime, I will always have 4 pennies in my pocket to pay you. All right, that's a guarantee. Same. Now we always gotta keep the change on us now. All right. So there's another team that I did want to talk about. I'll touch on their. I already did touch on one of my favorite signings of theirs, so I won't go into too much detail. But for the Steelers, not super active, only signed 5 guys. Jamel Dean was their biggest signing, 3 years, 36 million, 12 of that guaranteed. Rico Dowdle, we talked about him last week, 2 years, 12 million. I think that could be a decent signing, but I'm maybe not as excited as I was last year when he went to Carolina. But Rico, I think he's going to be a solid number 2 there. They got another player from that Chicago secondary, Jaquan Brisker, 1 year, 5.5 million. And then, speaking of former Green Bay Packers, former first round pick Darnell Savage, who was after leaving Green Bay, signed a big deal over there in Jacksonville. Year 2, he got cut basically. Spent some time with Buffalo, did not make a massive splash there, and is now with the Steelers. But the biggest story for the Pittsburgh Steelers is they don't have a quarterback, and apparently, from the looks of it, it looks like Aaron Rodgers, at least as the days go on, it is becoming more and more clear that it looks like Aaron Rodgers will not be retiring, and he will be coming back to the Steelers, it looks like. So I'm going to cheers on that because that son of a biscuit, Aaron Rodgers, got us all sentimental for nothing. Unbelievable. All year long. And I was like, this is his last season. We're going to watch some Steeler football, even though it's terrible. Aaron Rodgers is a freaking troll, man. And that's the one thing I've learned over the last couple of years. That man is just trolling all of us. Every single time. Every time he says that he's going to be in an interview, he's going to say something important, ends up being nothing. Says he's going to retire, doesn't do it. You know, even after a while, Brett Favre just stopped. He eventually just retired. Okay? Aaron is he's going down that Brett Favre path. I'm telling you, man, in 10 to 15 years from now, somehow, some way, Aaron Rodgers he's gonna get caught taking money from the government to build a volleyball court in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, somewhere, somehow. I don't know how. I don't know. But it just seems like it's going down that path. And I'm here for it, except I hope the people get their money back this time. That's the one thing that Aaron Rodgers can improve. He could get caught, take responsibility, and then pay the people back. But yeah, otherwise the Steelers are doing what they did last year. They're just waiting for Aaron Rodgers to say, "Yep, I'm coming back." Which, if I'm the Steelers, man, I'm just like, "Yeah, we don't want you back." I would not want Aaron Rodgers back, man. They did not play well enough for me to want to play this saga, this drama, this waiting game with Aaron again. If he would have taken them not only to the playoffs, but they would have won a game or two, 100%. They looked bad in that playoff game. They looked bad for most of the regular season. If I'm Pittsburgh, man, I'm moving on. But anyway, honestly, I kind of want Rodgers to go off on a tear and just beat the NFC North into oblivion. Only drop the to Mahomes, and then who wins loses to Green Bay in Super Bowl. I like that. I like it. One last round. All right, but this better be the if this man says he's gonna retire, he better freaking retire this year, man. After this year, not doing this again. Not doing this again. This freaking guy, that freaking guy, I tell you. I respect the troll, but after a while, once I fall for it, I don't like it, man. It's no longer fun. Come on. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Also, David, did you think that it was going to be his last year or no? I really thought it was over, man. After this season, the only thing, and I said it during that stream. I'm like, I'm gonna be surprised if Rodgers decides to end his career on a pick six as his final play. To be honest with you, man, part of me still thinks that that is the reason he's coming back. There's just something inside him, his ego, his whatever it is, he just can't let it go. I think even if they would have lost that game in that same fashion, if it wasn't a pick six or if it wasn't the fumble that was also returned for a touchdown from Aaron, if that stuff didn't happen, I think he would be okay and just would have retired. But the fact that two turnovers of his were returned for touchdowns during that game, including a pick six being the final play, something tells me I don't think Aaron would want to go out that way. 70% theory is correct. I like the specific number. I would have liked it a little bit more if it was a 9% lower, but would have been nice. But I appreciate the bump up there. Yeah, where are we? Where are we? All right. So let's talk about the old Bills there. LOL -9 because he duped us. Sure. There we go. There we go. So let's talk about the Bills. Once again, they were in a little bit of a cap issue, but they were able to restructure some deals. Obviously, they can, especially when they have so many big name players, they can do that and clear up a lot of cap space, kicking the can just down the road a little bit more. But obviously, their biggest signing this offseason was Bradley Chubb, trying to up some of that pressure, up some of that those sack numbers, those pressure numbers in that defense that was really bad at times, man. Especially down the last month, that defense just fell off a cliff. And trust me, that cliff was already low, and somehow, like Wile E. Coyote, they just keep finding ways to go even further and further. down the hill with that defense. But Bradley Chubb, obviously the biggest knock on him over the last couple of years has been his inability to stay healthy. He had injury issues with Miami. He had injury issues with the Broncos, and he's been kind of just bouncing around. But for the most part, when he's been healthy, he's been solid. He's been good. He's been able to get pressure, which is a big reason why the Bills gave him a $43 million contract on a 3-year deal, man. On top of that, D Ford coming from Atlanta, a guy that has been productive for the most part in his career. He's never been a true shutdown corner, but he's never been that. He's not really much of an outside guy. They're going to use him a lot on the inside, which I think that's where they needed the most help. The Bills, in my opinion, I think that was some of their biggest issues was those short intermediate routes, those slant routes, those kind of over the middle that were just getting chewed up in with big chunks, which also comes to why they signed C.J. Gardner-Johnson, a safety that is ultra aggressive, especially in that middle part of the field. Loves to bang, loves to attack the ball and be aggressive. Not huge against the run, but for the most part, he's kind of a willing tackler. He's just not a great tackler. So yeah, so Bills trying to kind of rebuild that secondary a little bit that got victimized quite a bit last year. They were old, they were slow, and just injury prone as well. At least they got a little bit younger and a little bit more tenacious with the Alford and Gardner Johnson signings there. Geno Stone is another safety that they're bringing in from the Bengals. I'm trying to remember where Stone originally came from. I think he was with the Saints, if I'm right, before he went to the Bengals, but maybe I'm wrong. Hold on. Sorry, it's been a while since I've paid attention to Geno Stone. Ravens. Oh, okay, so he bounced around. Yeah, he was a late round pick for the Baltimore Ravens. Played really well, was cut, signed with Texans, never stuck around there, but then the next 3 years was with the Ravens. Played really well, signed a big contract. He was actually a guy that I was hoping the Packers would sign during free agency in 2023. Thankfully, they didn't, for the most part, just because it didn't seem to really work out that well over there in Cincinnati. But now he's with the Bills. Solid player, man. Over 300 sacks in his career. 14 interceptions, 21 pass defended, and 2 sacks, two defensive touchdowns as well. So he's a guy that can make a couple big plays every once in a while, but it's just not as dominant as the numbers would suggest. There's some big plays that he's given up during his time with the Bengals. But another player, once again, that has potential decent ceiling with very little risk there. So yeah. So for the Bills, I think it's going to be front seven. They're going to be targeting, and then on top of that, a lot of offensive weapons that they need to rebuild. Offensive line is going to be an issue. Was an issue last year, and they did not get better. They ended up losing David Edwards. So they're going to need to rebuild that offensive line and probably add another receiver or tight end to help out Josh Allen, just to make sure that in case DJ Moore does not become that guy, they at least have a backup. So, all right. I'm trying to see here. Okay. So the last team I will talk about is going to be Green Bay. I'm just trying to make sure I'm not missing any other major signings that we haven't talked about already. As long as they keep kicking wide right, it doesn't. Oh, ow, ow! Even I felt that one, man. How dare you, man? Okay, so here's another team. I actually don't even have their freaking logo up. I don't think. No, I forgot it. Dang it. That's all right. Whatever. It's the 49ers. Their logo got injured on the when I was trying to put it into OBS here. So they had a pretty active free agency for the most part. They signed Nate Hobbs, who was cut by the Packers, 1 year, $4 million deal. They re-signed, kind of, Dre Greenlaw, who was with them for the majority of his career, signed with the Broncos last year on a big deal, did not work out over there in Denver, and is now back with San Francisco on a 1 year, $7.5 million contract. Their logo got zapped by the you know, man, it's just their logo got put on IR basically. Don't worry. Somehow they're going to be still able to make the playoffs somehow. But yeah, Drake Greenlaw. We'll see. I think it's a low risk kind of signing there for the most part. Obviously, he was very productive in his time there, but we'll see. We'll see. But finally, their biggest signing by far was Mike Evans, man. A guy that spent 13 seasons with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, the guy, when he retires, is going to be not only going into the Hall of Fame, but will also be going into the Buccaneers Hall of Fame as one of the, if not the greatest wide receiver of that franchise's history. At the very least, the most consistent, man. Up until, I think, this year, maybe even last year, I'd have to look at the numbers, but 11 consecutive seasons at the very least of going over 1,000 yards, which is, I mean, that's productivity, man. And on top of that, great red zone target and was a leader on that team as well. So, yeah, otherwise, for the most part, they kind of stuck to signing their own guys. They did pick up Alex Anzalone, who I think is going to be a pretty solid pickup there. 2 years, $17 million. I like the Kenneth Gainwell signing there, the running back. 2 years, $14 million. He was incredibly productive in his one season with the Steelers going over 1,000 total yards on offense. Was very productive through the air, really solid on the ground. And then also signing another Tampa Bay Buccaneer, Cade Otton, at tight end, which with George Kittle's injury late in the season, they're definitely going to need a guy that has been productive in the NFL, not only as a tight end, but also Cade Otton was the Buccaneers' #1 tight end over the last couple seasons. So, trying to see here. Also, I completely sorry, I got the logos mixed up there. So Kadon re-signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sorry, they literally put the Buccaneers and the 49ers logos right next to each other, and they look, in terms of color-wise, they look very similar. So my apologies. So Cade Otton, Alex Anzalone, Kenneth Gainwell are with the Buccaneers now with San Francisco. So my bad. My bad. I know some of you guys are like, what the heck is, like, who signs where? Sorry. I was actually focusing on the names, did not realize that the logo had changed. Don't. I can hear you laughing through the camera. Do not laugh. Stop it. Stop it. Actually, no. You can point and laugh. Point and laugh at Dave. I think that's deserving. All right. And I think that is about it, man. Wan'Dale Robinson signing with the Titans was a big signing there. Well, way overpaid for Wan'Dale, man. He was, I mean, there was talks of him getting cut coming into last season with the Giants, man. He was like definitely a guy that was not expected to play a lot of football, but because of the injuries to the Giants there, he became a big focal point for them. Was productive, but 1 year of productivity was, in my opinion, that's a lot. 4 years, $70 million, 38 of that guaranteed. That is a lot of money for a receiver that only had one fairly productive season in 4 years. That's not point and laugh at the Vikings again. Thank you, man. Thank you. Jonathan Franklin Myers signed with the Titans as well. That could be a decent one. That could be a really decent signing. Obviously, as coming from Denver, where he was very, very productive. That whole team defensively was very productive. Mitchell Trubisky signing with the Titans, good backup plan in my opinion. 2 years, $10 million. It's pretty good for one of the better backups in the NFL. And I think that is all before I get to the Packers, man. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody major. No. All right, man. All right, all right. So talking about the Packers. So we'll talk about their free agency signings. They're not many. Um, but then we'll talk about what I think they need in the draft now that most of free agency is gone. Tennessee. He went to Tennessee, which I think is a pretty good. Backing up. My goodness. Okay, I wanted to make sure Trubisky was going to be the backup because I was like, is he going to be behind somebody? But no, Will Levis is definitely not going to be starting over Mitchell Trubisky. But yeah, so Trubisky will likely be the primary backup to Cam Ward there. I wasn't sure if Levis was still on the team, but he is. Yeah, wow. The Mayo Man still getting paid. All right, man. Let's go to Green Bay's signings here. All right. Once again, not many. They re-signed. Most of their signings are just re-signings. So Darian Kennard got a 1 year, $2.7 million deal. Josh Wiley at tight end. They're obviously going to need depth because there's a decent chance that they're going to be shorthanded at tight end at least early on. So Brenton Cox needed obviously to get some pass rushers back after trading away Rashawn Gary, losing Enigbari to the Jets. So needed to make sure that they got that down. And then on top of that, they lost Quay at linebacker, so they re-signed Christian Welch, who I don't expect to see a whole lot on defense. He's mostly going to be a special teams guy, but obviously we've seen Welch every once in a while, especially in the preseason, be on the field defensively, and he's been good. He's been good. Titans wouldn't have minded Trubisky as a backup, 100%. You talking about KC or in Green Bay? Actually, both teams probably could have been pretty good to get him, but I think the $10 million contract was a little bit too rich for KC and Green Bay. Plus, they tend to like to go younger at quarterback for the most part, even though I know Minshew is like in his late 20s. What? Yeah. Either I was thinking KC, but Green Bay too. Yeah, but if Trubisky were to sign with Green Bay, he needs to keep his Chicago memorabilia off. He needs to keep that in storage somewhere outside of the state of Wisconsin. He can't bring that stuff in. Can't bring that kind of stuff into Green Bay. But the two signings that the Packers did make, external signings, are good. I like them quite a bit. They got Benjamin St. Just on a 2 year, $2.8 million contract. He was with the Chargers last year. Really, really solid signing. I think this is what I think they were hoping with the Nate Hobbs contract. Benjamin, he's a guy that he basically played slot for the most part, but he did take a couple snaps on the outside. but I think the Packers are going to keep him inside. I think they're going to want him to secure that, and they're going to try to roll the dice with taking some guys in the draft for the outside corners there. And then finally, the Packers taking a page out of Minnesota and signing a player from their rival state there next door, and that is Jonathan Hargrave, who was cut by the Minnesota Vikings. So that signing will not count against them in terms of compensatory picks next year. But Hargrave, 33 years old, he has been pretty productive almost everywhere he's gone, except for this past year with Minnesota. It's a 2-year, $23 million contract, 13 of that guaranteed. And the big reason why they brought Hargrave is, one, they are thin, absolutely thin at the inside defensive line. Obviously, trading away Kobe Jack Cheese over there for the Franklin trade, and then on top of that, they lost Clark last year on the Micah trade. So they've been kind of eating away at their depth there, and then on top of that, Devontae Wyatt is still recovering from that nasty ankle injury that he had midway through the season. So they needed somebody over the middle that has been able to play that position at a high level at some point. And on top of that, Hargrave is a guy that Jonathan Gannon, the new defensive coordinator for the Packers, knows very well. They were together over there in Philly when the Eagles made it to the Super Bowl the first time. And then on top of that, Hargrave's most productive seasons of his career came when Gannon was his defensive coordinator. So a little bit of that there. Also, if you do get a chance, look up Jonathan Hargrave's son's reaction to finding out that his dad is going to be a Packer. And if you were not a fan of Jonathan Hargrave, or you're not 100% sold on it, look up that video. Jonathan Hargrave's son. It's going to melt your heart, and you're going to be like, you know what? I want Jonathan to sign a career-long contract, man. Because that kid had one of the most genuinely heartwarming reactions to finding out that his dad is going to play for the Packers, man. It was freaking awesome. Absolutely awesome. And also, that kid has good taste. I guarantee you, he was not excited when he went to the Minnesota Vikings. But when he came to Green Bay, man, that kid was so excited. Oh, is that the video I saw of the kid? Yeah, I think it was like I think his mom was recording him. He was in the back of like a Honda or whatever, and she was like, no, and he was like, she's like, cheesehead, and the kid just like slowly realizing, and he's like, Green Bay, and oh my god, that kid was so excited for his dad to play for the Packers, man. So that kid automatically coolest kid from a Packers player's perspective. So I'm gonna tell you that much. Get that kid some good seats. Get that kid a cheesehead. Get that kid a jersey. Get that kid everything. All right. That kid loves Green Bay apparently. So salute to that young man. He didn't let Minnesota ruin him. So yeah. So some decent players there. I guarantee you, Benjamin and Hargrave are going to be playing a lot of football for the Packers, and to be able to sign both of those guys to relatively cap-friendly, team-friendly deals, could pay some dividends there. And also, they were able to address some of the biggest needs there, adding some depth at corner and defensive line. So, for the most part, I don't think any of the signings that I talked about for Green Bay are going to change anything. The Packers have always kind of been a team that drafts for best player available. We've seen that. Like 2 years ago, they needed to draft for corner, and they addressed that corner not until the 6th round. The only thing that's memorable about that pick was that I'm pretty sure that was the pick that Tom Grassi got to announce when he was in Green Bay. So the Packers have had zero problem not addressing a major need if it doesn't meet the value. Having said that, the Packers don't have a first-round pick this year or next year. And they are definitely going to need to address some some spots, man. The corner is by no means a set position. Their best player right now at that position is Keyshawn Nixon, and as I've said before, Keyshawn is great for game two, maybe three, but otherwise the other games he is struggling quite a bit. Defensive line still needs to be addressed. With Rashawn Gary gone, they don't really have a number two for Micah Parsons, who knows if he's going to be ready for week one. Lucas Van Ness is going to need to step up, but coming into year four, he hasn't really shown that he's taken that next step in his development. It can happen, but I don't I don't think the Packers should be banking on a guy that has shown very little jump in terms of his ability. Devontae Wyatt is also a guy that may not be ready for week one. And on top of that, their secondary needs help. I think their safety room is solid. I wouldn't mind adding an extra guy here and there, but corner is going to be where they need to come away with at least two guys that can potentially compete with Keyshawn, with Benjamin Jessett, and things like that, man, or Carrington Ballantyne. You don't want to go into the season with those three guys as your top three. I'm trying to think as well. For the most part, I think receiver, I think they have addressed it. They drafted three guys last year. All of them are still there. They're still young. They've looked productive for the most part. Didn't have anything crazy, but I think the Packers now with Romeo Doubs gone, they're going to open up some more plays, some more opportunities for those young players. Tight end could be a position where I think they could dip in to give maybe a two-headed monster at that position. And then finally, offensive line. The Packers always need help along the offensive line, and I think that's true for any team. Tackle is something that can add some more depth. Guard for sure, and then maybe even a center, which I know they signed Sean Ryan to be their starting center, but it's never a bad idea to have a backup. Kind of a little bit of a jar on the shelf. Maybe not for this year, but next year or year after that. Backup quarterback as well, but I don't think the Packers are going to be too worried about that in the draft. I think there's plenty of holes on this defense that they would need to address, as well as the offense, before they think about a backup quarterback, in my opinion. But yeah, I think corner is still the biggest issue for the Packers. I don't think they really have a true number one or even number two corner. Defensive line, all across the board, I think they have one or two really solid players that could start, but everybody else, in my opinion, is a rotational or backup player. And then finally, I think their offensive line needs depth. I think they have 3 to 4 really good starters, but I think after that, we've seen the amount of injuries that their offensive line has had. We've seen sometimes the dip in play for a little bit, and they need to add depth and youth to that offensive line, so to protect them this season, but also in a season or two. So, but yeah, as I'm thinking, let me know what you think of your team, David. Let me know what you think of Kansas City or Green Bay, what they might need in the draft, and if anybody else is watching, let me know what you're hoping for your team in the draft as well, as we kind of start to wrap up here just a little bit. But yeah, those are the positions there: corner, defensive line. Wouldn't mind a linebacker here and there, but I think the Packers are surprisingly deep at that position. It's just not super high quality, but they're really solid players. And then finally, tight end, offensive line is where I would like them to address some of those needs. Running back, I think they're solid, man. Chris Brooks is solid. Josh Jacobs hopefully has a bounce back year, and hopefully, for the love of God, somebody bubble wrap Marshawn Lloyd. Don't let that dude even get on the practice field until week one. Like, we gotta do something, man. That dude is made out of glass, but Jesus. But he could potentially be a good running back, but after 2 years, man, who knows what his body is like at this point. So I don't know. I'm hoping that KC gets offensive line, yeah, and the Packers get some defense in some form. Also special teams. Yep. They did get Sky Moore, which I do like that pickup. That was another player that for some reason isn't on here. I don't know why. But yeah, Sky Moore was picked up by the Packers last week, and I think he's a guy that can give Green Bay some juice on that during some returns, man. And that's something that I talked about during this season and even after the season ended, where the Packers' special teams was just lackluster, man, all across the board. And like I said, if Sky Moore can give us one 30-yard return, 40-yard return, even just once a month, I think it will be borderline worth the freaking trade. Not the trade, sorry, the signing. If you can do that once a month and maybe give us one big play on offense every once in a while, like, and I mean every once in a while, worth it. He was on the Chiefs, right? Yes, he was a second round draft pick, second or third round draft pick, Sky Moore, because I think he got traded to the Cardinals. So yeah, he was. Okay. So he was drafted by KC in 2022, second round pick. Yep, won two Super Bowls with him, and then he was traded to San Francisco for a seventh round draft pick. And now he's with the Packers. Packers special teams was putting too much focus on the special. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. They've been pretty bad for a while. They've been pretty bad. Yeah, don't get me wrong. The first year, even kind of into that second year of Rich Bisaccia, was great, man. The first year, Keyshawn had what, two or three? I think he had two kick returns for a touchdown, and he had a couple good punt returns. The second year, I think he only had one really great return, maybe two. I think it was one touchdown. And then once Keyshawn just didn't want to do special teams anymore, it just, there was nothing. There was nothing. They went through like five returners over the last like 2 years, and not a single one was consistent. Could barely hold on to the ball half the time. So yeah, bad. But yeah, man. Trying to think here. Oh yes, the other thing that I did want to talk about is I am currently filming. It's not a film. It's not a film room. I'm filming those now. I got the first three filmed. Still editing the first one. Still have yet to get to the second and the third one, but I am going to be filming those. My goal is to film five and edit five of those. That way, I will have those ready to go. And as I'm releasing those to you guys, I'm actually working on other ones. I don't want to film one, edit one, and then do another one because it's gonna be too much of a gap. I am a slow editor, unfortunately. I am getting better. It used to be a lot freaking worse when I was doing it last year or 2 years ago, I guess. At this point, um, so I'm getting a little bit better. I'm getting a little bit more of a system down. Plus, I'm getting a little bit more in a rhythm in terms of how filming these. So they're being a little bit shorter. I remember when I filmed the very first one last year, I think it was an hour and a half, or no, it was an hour and 20 minutes, and I was able to condense it down to what it was when I posted it, and that was a 32-minute video, which even then to me is still a little bit too long. I'm trying to get those somewhere around 20 to 25 minutes, but if there's good stuff there, I will keep it there. I'm a ruthless editor, man. If it's nonsense, or if I don't think it fits with the other stuff, I will cut it and just move on to the next thing in terms of like what's in that video. So yeah, those are being filmed. They're being edited, and unfortunately, I think I said I was gonna try to get them done by early March. Probably gonna be early April to mid-April by the time I'm done with all of them. Unfortunately, they're just taking a little bit longer than I thought. So sorry about that, guys. But I am filming those. I am editing those, and yeah, they'll be done. Um, I'm not gonna put a specific date on it just because I don't want to miss that deadline. I want to kind of keep doing that to you guys. So I do apologize for that, but they are being made. So oh man. But yeah, the first episode will be the Packers and Lions, breaking down that one of my favorite drive of that game. That'll be the very first episode that I release this off season. So look out for that one as well. That will be coming. That'll be the first episode, and then after that, we'll kind of go from there. Yeah, I'm gonna keep basically going from there. Gonna go to week one, week two, and then kind of move on. And then if we have enough time before the season starts, I'll kind of run back and then try to do pick some of my favorite drives throughout the season. Man, there's gonna be a lot of good ones. There was a lot of football that we watched, and a lot of good drives throughout the season. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers make a couple appearances. Obviously, I'm a biased Packer fan, but there's some decent drives every once in a while. Steelers, Lions games, Thanksgiving games, obviously against the Lions was a really good one. So yeah. Let me see here. I'm trying to make sure I don't forget anything else. Any major news? Darius Slay is retiring. Man, I forgot about that. That was a corner, a veteran corner that some Packer fans were like, "Hey, we could recognize him from his time in Detroit, his time in Philadelphia. Can we sign him for a 1 year deal?" But apparently, Darius is calling it a career, hanging up the cleats. One of the better corners of the last decade, man. Just always very underrated, always smart, always around the ball, man. So shout out to Darius Slay, man. A really good player. Pick sixes are always good content for film rooms. Oh yeah, don't worry. There's definitely gonna be a couple pick sixes there. There's gonna be a decent kind of couple plays leading up to that pick six, but we had a lot of good defensive touchdowns this year, man. A lot of good ones. Sorry, I'm just double checking if I'm missing anything there. Makes you wonder how much he wanted to return to Philly, or if Philly was just like, nope. I think it's possible, man, because I feel like if you were, granted, doesn't guarantee it, but I think if you were ready to retire, I think it's just that he waited after free agency, which makes me feel like he was hoping the right team would want to sign him. But I think the team or the teams that he was hoping for never got a call from them. So he was like, you know what? I've made a lot of money, but I've also played a lot of football, some really good football. If I don't get that call now, maybe in the during the season. But but yeah, man. I think you're right. I think he definitely wanted to go for Philly. I know that for a fact. I know he really liked his time at Philly. Maybe Detroit was a team that he was waiting for. He had a really good career there. Picked off Rodgers like 2 or 3 times in his time in Detroit, and that was before Dan Campbell and Detroit got really good. So, but yeah, man, I think that is it, man. Yeah, the Justin Fields one was probably one of the bigger things to happen today in terms of trades. But yeah, nothing too crazy. Nothing too crazy. I know the Cowboys made a couple trades the last couple days, but it seemed like they were just trying to get some of the get some players that they did not believe were going to be able to be on the team or even potentially make the team. So they're just like, let's see if we can get something out of these guys. I know one of them, Osa, was just to kind of clear out some of the cap space from that. So yeah, but otherwise, nothing too crazy, man. Nothing too crazy over the last couple days. But yeah, But David, you got anything for me, man? And it doesn't have to be football related. It can be anything, my man. Did you watch the Oscars, man? David, you seem like an Oscars guy. I know. Just messing with you. Oh yeah, I forgot Legarius Sneed got let go. Trying to see here. What did it look like with Tennessee, man? I remember he got traded to them for a third round pick. Okay. Dang. Only played 5 games for Tennessee, man. That's it's not a whole lot to give up for a third round pick, man. That's bad. I have as much interest in watching the Oscars as you have interest in the Vikings winning a Super Bowl. Oh my goodness, dude. David, that's why I love you, man. You could have easily been like, "No, I did not watch it," or "No, I hate the Oscars." The poeticism in your sarcasm is beautiful, my man. Absolutely beautiful. Oh man, dude. That was awesome. Oh, sorry. Oh, my goodness. All right. But yeah, man, I think that is going to be it for me today, guys. Um, once again, I'm thinking of either doing a Thursday or a Friday, um, another hangout there. That one I will be doing a little bit more research in the draft. I'll have a couple ideas of players that I think the Packers could be interested in, and we'll kind of go from there. It'll be a little bit of a tighter show or a tighter hangout, just because the draft is I still haven't done as much prep for the draft as I want. Still haven't even gotten my like booklet that I usually get, so I don't know a ton of players, but there are a few corners and a few linebackers that I've looked at for the Packers. So I'll try to talk about those guys, and we'll kind of go from there, man. So I will keep you guys posted. I work the next 2 days, so I'll try to let you guys know by Wednesday of what it will be. Otherwise, yeah, if you don't hear anything from me by Thursday morning, it'll likely be a Friday that I'll be doing that. So, are you going to watch the NCAA basketball tournament? I will definitely probably be watching some in the background for sure, for sure. And then, but I don't know a ton of. Same thing with college, especially college basketball. I know very little. So, David, if you got any pointers or anything I should look out for while I watch, let me know. Let me know some storylines as well. But yeah, I will definitely be having that in the background as I'm kind of probably jotting down some notes because I like gotta have that sports, man. I gotta have some type of competition while I'm doing football stuff. Otherwise, I start to kind of veer off and ADHD, man. I need to fill out my bracket, so no, I don't have any points. Fair enough. Fair enough. Actually, I might fill out a bracket, man. Yeah, I'll fill out a bracket and I'll post it on the channel. That way, that's something we can talk about while we do it like a little bit of a hangout over the next couple weeks. So yeah, and right now it's the men's, right? The men's are playing right now, and then the women's play later. Is that correct? Or because they don't go at the same time, right? There's a little bit of a gap, or there's not much overlap, I should say. All right, so the men's starts the 19th and it ends on April 6th. Okay. Doesn't start until tomorrow. Gotcha. There you go. Starts tomorrow, the 17th? Oh, okay. First four. There we go. First four. That's why I was confused. I was like, doesn't it says 19, but there we go. The first four that starts the 17th through the 18th. That is NC State, Texas, SMU, Miami of Ohio, Howard, UMBC, and then finally Lehigh and Prairie View. Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to find a way to watch this. I think I have. So I know I have CBS and some of these, so I probably won't be able to watch all of them. But let's go. And then let me see here. So when does the women's start? Theirs starts a day later, so March 20th, and then ends on April 5th. But their first games, the first four are the 18th through the 19th. Okay, so they do overlap. Okay, there's like a one day, 2 day kind of gap in between. Okay, gotcha. All right, boom, all set, man. Let's go. All right, baby. Let's freaking go, man. All right, guys. I will catch you guys later this week. David, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for always being here, my man. Thank you. Let me see here. Thanks for the stream, Dave. Need to fill in the bracket. Doesn't start until tomorrow. There we go. Okay, I want to make sure I didn't miss any of your messages, my man. Sorry, I just looked at the Oscar one again. The Oscar comment. Oh man. All right, brother. Have a good night, man. Have a good week. I will catch you guys Thursday or Friday. I'll keep you posted, and yeah, we'll break down maybe a little bit of some draft stuff. But seems like this next live stream is going to be definitely more of a hangout. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you for always popping in here, supporting the channel, and supporting me. So have a good night, guys. Thank you once again. My name is Dave, and I'm not a coach.